Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3, the final part for today for Thursday, July 18th, 2013. I'm Darko. I got some interesting news here, especially some conspiracy news, but also we'll start with the economy. Economists caution, prepare for massive wealth destruction. So it says here that that's exactly what many well-respected economists, billionaires, and noted authors are telling you to do. So according to them, we're on the verge of another recession, and this will be far worse than experienced during the last financial crisis. It says, I think we're somewhere down the line where we will have a massive wealth destruction. I would say that well-to-do people may lose up to 50% of their total wealth. He was asked what sort of odds he put on a global recession happening. He says here that his predictions were quickly answered 100%. Back to the 90s, number of out of work for more than a year hits highest level since 1996. Almost 1 million people have not had a job for at least 12 months, and it says here it's a 17-year high. Total jobless numbers falls by 57,000 to 2.51 million, lowest since the autumn. Unions demand help for those facing misery of long-term unemployment. But David Cameron says there's encouraging signs of job growth. Okay. 74% of small businesses will fire workers and cut hours under Obamacare. This is despite the Obama regime's decision to delay forcing the companies to join Obamacare for a year. Small businesses expect the requirement to negatively impact their employees. So 27% say they will cut hours to reduce full-time employees, 24% will reduce hiring, and 23% plan to replace full-time employees with part-time workers to avoid triggering the mandate. Again, like I said, this will actually create a decrease in the unemployment level because they'll hire more people to fill part-time. And those people that are already there, they have full-time, will go to part-time. So you see, it's really, they call it Obamacare. It's really the unemployment care bill. Low-wage part-time jobs dominate tepid rise in U.S. payrolls. This is from May 4th. So continuing economic stagnation just basically in America. So the vast bulk of these new jobs being created are low-wage service industries or temporary or part-time positions, underscoring that the new normal offered by American and world capitalism is near poverty conditions for most of those workers able to find employment. Then you have McDonald's advice to its workers: get second job, and heating is a luxury and sample budget. So their new budgeting tool for employees, the advice of practical money skills for life. But it goes on here, it says it's the site, a partnership with Visa, supposed to help these low-wage workers learn how to manage their money. Think Progress reports that basically these people that have basically trying to get by on $8.25 an hour. But it says here, the Budget Journal suggests workers have a second job, and even then budget's only $20 per month for health insurance. The average cost for an independent individual plan is $215 a month, and the company's own plan for full-time workers is $14 a week, and exactly $0 for heating. The website claims that you can have almost anything you want as long as you plan ahead and save for it. But the truth is, basically every facet of this budget is unachievable. So it goes on here, it says the amounts, no specific budget amounts are given for food or clothing, though after paying bills including $150 car payment, $600 mortgage, $800 worth of monthly spending, money is left over. So apparently the groceries and car maintenance, gasoline, co-pays, actual medical expenses, and any number of other things are not allowed on the budget to come out of that. The path to financial freedom, according to Visa and McDonald's, involves turning off your heat, not buying groceries, not having children, never getting sick, and getting a second job. Japan's internet cafes, home for the underemployed. Over the last 10 years, internet cafes in Japan have become hotels for underemployed. Many are equipped with tiny private booths, showers, and laundry service, and offer reasonably priced packages for overnight users. Monthly rate of one cafe is about $19 a day. 2007, according to Japan's Ministry of Health, 60,000, almost 61,000 people spent a night at the internet cafe, and about 5,400 were living in them full-time. I've been to Japan before, and those places are kind of like cozy little nooks, and they usually are sitting there and they have a nice view of the street. But it says here, Wendy's new logo secret. So many of you have probably seen this article already about the hidden message, right? Yahoo and the mainstream media is going to tell you what's hidden in the message, right? It took me about a minute to pick out at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 things. What was hard to see was that bloggers this week have been calling a hidden message the word mom Ooh, Mom, appearing in the Wendy's ruffle collar. Most people have a sentimental attachment to at least a few of the dishes their moms used to make, noted a local or a blogger. It should not be a surprise to see fast food restaurant Wendy's associating their refreshed brand with Mom's cooking. So it says here, but Mom was apparently not a sneaky plot. Wendy's spokesperson told Business Insider on Monday, "We were aware of this and find it interesting that it appears on our windows. Wendy's cameo has Mom on her rough collar. We can assure you it was unintentional." I just don't buy that, this unintentional stuff. You know what I mean? As far as what I found so far, Hebrew numerals. You have this right here. The Mom is actually this 111 or whatever the heck it's called. These letters or numbers, 111, is actually 666. Then you have the O, which actually represents 60, or usually the zeros. Zero. I've heard this in different types of areas about the zero being null or having no value. So that's actually a 6, and of course, so you have 666, 6, 666. So, and almost it does look creepy. So there's definitely something there. Also, you have also a head with horns right there. And again, like I put here, because someone talked about the W right there. A W is really a V plus a V, which is Hebrew for Vav or VAV or 6. So another 6 there. It says here that I basically put this in a comment. It's funny because this little logo is filled with hidden symbolism. On the side of her head, inside the circle, is white space. It says here it looks like 2 snakes. That's right there, 2 snakes. And then of course I know this is the Big Dipper. But I said that these look like, they look like dinosaurs. Someone said the Eye of Ra. I just went with the dragon. I just went with the reptilian thing, right? So it looks like 2 snakes on the side. Her nose looks like a snake or serpent. And then you have her eyes, to me, look like dragons. So, I mean, to me, that tells you who's run the show. Reptilians, I don't know. But, the snake, the serpent, some people call Zionists and that, they're associated with the serpents and that. Kind of a stretch, I know. But for whatever it's worth, they put it right in your face. Let you know who rules you. FBI withholds autopsy of Zarniev associate shot in the head during questioning. So they ordered the medical examiner in Florida not to release the autopsy report of a Chechen man who was killed during the FBI interview in May over his ties to one of the suspected Boston bombers. And then we have this. Rolling Stone defends Zarniev glam cover. Let's shrink this a little bit. And it says here, a glam cover amid outcry. So the magazine says negative response is similar to cover 43 years ago of mass murderer Charles Manson. They say it was within tradition of serious and thoughtful coverage, and of course, the whole Charles Manson thing has all kinds of conspiracies attached to it. They said the cover treatment turns the accused killer into a rock star. And remember, just recently you had the Woolwich. Suspect basically blowing kisses in court, and you had this individual blowing kisses in court. So is everything just a lie? Is everything just a set of props or something? Judge orders Ariel Castro, keep your eyes open. He pleads not guilty and gets admonished about looking down. So, but it goes on here. The most interesting part of the court, or the court hearing, is that to keep his head up and his eyes open because she wanted to make sure that he understood what was going on. When he flagged at one point, she told him again and responded, "I'm trying." So he's heavily medicated. Again, this is what happened to the Colorado shooter, Holmes, falling asleep in court. I'm not saying whether this guy is guilty or not, but remember you had the first initial report saying, a friend saying that he had told him that he was part of the CIA. U.S. Navy vet, a real-life Jason Bourne, wakes up with no memory but speaks perfect Swedish. So, fictional character Jason Bourne is a covert intelligence operative, if you don't know, who survives an intense mind control reprogramming process to become a government assassin. After being shot while on an assassination mission, he forgets his identity, tries to discover his true past. Last week, a real-life Bourne awoke in a motel room while his ID revealed that he was a U.S. Navy veteran named Michael Boatwright. He awoke without any memory of being able to speak English whatsoever. He now speaks Swedish and insists his name is Johan Ek. When he looks in the mirror, he doesn't recognize his own face. He has no memory of his past. So I definitely believe that these things exist. It's pretty interesting. The latest Bourne movie, I just watched it recently, that the thing that stuck out was the wolves chasing him, because wolves don't, I don't know if this is true or not, but wolves don't attack or chase or hunt people. And so they were hunting him because his DNA, his whole genetic makeup had changed. It has to do with neuroscience, turning these people into super soldiers, as super assassins. And that's, of course, what possibly James Holmes was involved in, who now is actually converted to Islam, and he has a beard. So, but the other thing, too, is I do believe in past lives and reincarnation, so, and, it could have just been a past life coming up, Could have got a knock on the head, and that's what came out. I don't know. Kissinger, it's not the first story that's come out like that. Kissinger says terrorists are really people that reject the international system. Kissinger's definition of terrorism might surprise you. Well, it doesn't surprise me. But most of you already know he's former National Security Advisor, Secretary of State, as well as a member of the Bilderberg Group, CFR, Trilateral Commission, Bohemian Grove. He was seen giving the following speech: in the Middle East, we live in a different world. The nations do not represent historic entities in the same sense that European nations did. Turkey, of course, does, and Iran, in a considerable extent, does. But in the region in between, the borders were drawn by the victors of World War I on the basis largely of what facilitated their influence. So far, therefore, the identities of these countries and of their borders can be challenged more easily. What we in America call terrorists are really groups of people that reject the international system, and they're trying to regroup it to a radical Islamic fundamentalist kind. They say clearly Kissinger is saying that because many Middle Eastern countries do not have what appears to be, in his view, the historical significance of older countries, they are wide open for attack, regime change, and reordering. At least that's what they say. How do you think someone with Kissinger's perspective would see American patriots who reject the United Nations or central banking system? Surely he sees them as terrorists as well. If the state held similar views and used the terrorist label which is used in this country like streaming fire in a theater to circumvent the Constitution on a daily basis, such resistors to the New World Order would be instantly criminalized, marginalized, and marked for imprisonment or death. I've covered this before. I think even Cass Sunstein sees people like that as terrorists. And then you have this Dr. Cuckoo. Remember, I like going to this back to this source because it's very creepy. It sent chills down my spine when I heard him say this because I knew exactly what he was talking about. If you're against world government, you're a terrorist. So basically he's talking about the three types of extraterrestrials and how they're building up to a global government and all that. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 0. So he says here, the future of human civilization is world government. If you don't agree, you might be a terrorist. Conspiracy theorists aren't crazy. May 21st, 2013. So it says here from the New York Times Magazine, what psychologists can't know exactly what goes on inside our heads. They have, through surveys and laboratory studies, come up with a set of traits that correlate well with conspiracy belief. In 2010, a co-author summarized this research in The Psychologist, a scientific journal. They found, perhaps surprisingly, that believers in conspiracy theories are more likely to be cynical about the world in general and politics in particular. Conspiracy theories also seem to be more compelling to those with low self-worth, especially with regard to their sense of agency in the world at large. Conspiracy theories appear to be a way of reacting to uncertainty and powerlessness, i.e., you're a terrorist if you don't like world government. It says here, economic recessions, terrorist attacks, and natural disasters are massive, looming threats, but we have little power over when they occur or when they happen afterwards. So the problem is I wouldn't have a problem with the economy. The problem is that it's not an open market. It's not a free market. It's a completely rigged market from the top down. Terrorist attacks. Well, we know that most of the terrorist attacks are done by government agencies themselves. And they blame it on what? A fundamentalist, traditionalist, and natural disasters. Well, most of the disasters aren't natural, like Fukushima, different types of hurricanes. They're actually artificial disasters created through weather modification. I just found, this is the actual article I wanted from 5 days ago. Conspiracy theorists are saying government dupes are crazy and hostile. Since though conspiracy commenters are expressing what is now conventional wisdom, while anti-conspiracy commenters are becoming a small beleaguered minority. That's why the mainstream views are no longer representing the majority. So they found that anti-conspiracy commenters often displayed anger and hostility. Those who favored the official count of 9/11 were more hostile when trying to persuade their rivals, and that they have their own conspiracy theories. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you, and God bless.